Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature as we lead up into the Christmas period. It is looking likely it is going to be turning colder in the north, but perhaps still staying milder in the south. We're not expecting anything compared to what we've had the last day or two in terms of milder conditions, but generally perhaps average conditions in the south, maybe some cold insertions at times throughout the next 5 to 10 days, as we'll see on the GFS, GM, Eastern WF and the Ensembles. Cold air is going to sink back in from the Arctic. There is some blocking around, which is trying to force it further southwards, but the Atlantic is powering up. So we have got a bit of a situation where we've got Atlantic systems coming up against cold air. The majority of the models have the cold sort of line, cold sort of mild barrier further northwards across parts of Scotland and northern England. That will mean there will be snow around at times in those areas over the course of the next week or two, but it also does mean areas in the south more likely will see temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees, in the north perhaps more towards 1 or 2 degrees or lower than that. So we're going to see some very contrasting conditions over the course of the next week or two. Some areas in the north could have a white Christmas, could have some snow falling over the Christmas period, could be quite cold. Areas in the south it might just be grey, dull, and generally average conditions. But we'll have a look at what the models are showing. There is a lot of uncertainty. None of the models are really agreeing too much today. Some are still showing blocking, some are still showing westerly flow pushing in, quite a strong jet stream coming back. So we'll have to see what happens over the course of the next few weeks. I definitely don't think we are done with the blocking for the winter or for the next few weeks in general, but perhaps we're seeing a bit of a lull at the moment. But of course it's something we do need to keep an eye on. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if we start on the live radar, you can see we've got a westerly flow pushing in right now. Bit of snow over Scotland at the highest ground, again not too unusual for this time of year, but because we're tilting the winds more from a westerly direction instead of that southwesterly we had from Sunday, Monday time, it is turning cooler, back down to more sort of average conditions. That means snow will be falling in Scotland and it'll feel a bit fresher elsewhere. Temperatures overnight dropping down to the mid to low single digits. In the day, maybe around 8 to 10 degrees. So average, maybe still slightly above average, but not feeling all too mild out there at all. Those showers will push in. Again, they will mainly affect northern and western areas with this westerly wind, but all areas will see some precipitation over the course of the next 5 days. Do put on the temperatures as of around 5 p.m. Got sunset, so temperatures are starting to cool down. Cold in Scotland and from generally western areas, and we've got that cooler air pushing in. But still widely, it's not too cold at all, with some yellows pushing in still in areas. And you can see still the mild air remnants across Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, down to France, and still that cold air towards Eastern Europe. You see that big mild wedge of air pushing in off the near Atlantic over into the continent. Still very cold air to our east. So if we did see the blocking come back, either in north or easterly, that cold air is not too far away. But at the moment, we're in a milder wedge. Do go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. Now you can see today just showers generally in the west, but nothing too much. And overnight tonight, those showers continue in the west, maybe pepping up in Wales, into parts of the Midlands, southern England perhaps as well, into tomorrow. And by tomorrow, those showers should clear away and generally just affecting northern areas where there could be a bit of wintriness over the higher ground, but most of them are showers. Again, if we head into Thursday, more rain in the south, and this is where the wind starts to veer more northerly. The south sees precipitation and generally average to sort of milder conditions. The north starts to see colder air come back in. You can see that for Thursday, heavy rain in the south, again showing the jet stream shifted slightly further southwards. And then as we head into the 23rd, snow in the north, potentially even into northern hills at times across Scotland. Elsewhere, rain across the Midlands and England and Wales. And then as we head into Christmas Eve, look at that snow falling more widely across Scotland and northern England, even creeping into Wales and the Midlands over some higher ground. And then for Christmas Eve, it actually turns colder for all. You can see that barrier between the cold air and the mild air is all the way across central southern England. But the models have this low coming in from the southwest, pushing that cold air away through Christmas Day. So it looks likely all the country will see cold air, maybe for 24 hours there, through Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, before it's pushed away in the south. That could introduce moisture, could introduce precipitation to give snow perhaps further northwards through Boxing Day or through the end of Christmas Day as well. Again, that's outside of the 5-day time frame, so we haven't got the high resolution models on it, and there is still significant uncertainty in the mid to longer range as well. So we'll have to see what they do show. But you can see it by having a look at the air masses. You can see there at midnight, as we head into Christmas Day, widely in the north and east, -5 isotherm, even getting down to -10 across Scotland. So very cold, but the far southwest, milder areas pushing in, or average sort of conditions are pushing in, and that's going to introduce moisture, precipitation, and probably some snow for areas in the north. The majority of the models have that milder air pushing in, engulfing most of England and Wales and Republic of Ireland. Now, if you go over to the 2-metre max temperatures, you have to see today temperatures widely around that sort of 8 to 10 degree mark, colder in the north with that cooler air pushing in. Into tomorrow, as we head into the afternoon, you can see again temperatures maybe 6 to 8 degrees, maybe 10 degrees in the far south, but again more towards average really. As we head into Thursday, temperatures in the day maybe slightly milder with a bit of a milder push of air in the south, maybe 10 to 13 degrees, so quite mild weather actually. The north though, much colder, and you can start to see that sort of contrast starting to appear. And into the 23rd, widely around freezing across Scotland, mid to low single digits through northern England, Northern Ireland, but still 10 to 12 degrees in the south. Into the 24th, that cold air spreads around for all, and it's only 4 or 5 degrees in the south, widely around freezing in the north. But as we head into Christmas Day, you can see big temperature contrasts, widely below freezing for Christmas morning in northern and eastern areas, but further southwards and westwards, milder areas pushing in, again accompanied by precipitation and cloud. Again, we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see the high resolution run for this, but I'm sure there will be potentially some snow in the north for this through Christmas Day into Boxing Day. And as I said, most of the mid-range models at the moment have that milder air pushing in for the south, so no snow there, but could be some rain and cloud and cold conditions through Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. So if you do go to the GFS and see what that is showing over the course of the next couple of weeks, now this is the 12 o'clock run that's just come out, so we don't have it all the way out to 384 hours, but it's got out to 306 hours, so pretty much to the end of any reliable time frame here. So you can see a westerly flow at the moment, that westerly flow at the moment, you see the low pressure running in off the Atlantic, that northerly wind pushing in, gives colder air through the 24th into the 25th temporarily before that low develops to our south, pushing a milder air in for Boxing Day, snow potentially in the north, for eventually clearing and pushing us into slightly cooler air. And it's all because we still got this blocking to our north and our west, but generally we stay in quite a westerly flow, and as we head right to the end of the run, still generally with the jet stream shoved southwards, still colder in the north, but milder generally in the south. Now, if you run through it, you can see the -5 isotherm takes over Northern England and Scotland there, before that big mild push through Boxing Day. And then beyond that, we stay cold in the north, but generally mild in the south. There could be plenty of snow opportunity in Scotland with this sort of run, but in the south, it does look generally more towards average, potentially milder than average as well. Again, this is only one run. As we'll see in the Ensemble members in a minute, there is huge contrast, again, all dependent on how far southwards that cold air does get before it gets pushed away, and how much it does hang on against the mild air and weather fronts. But at this stage, the GFS definitely favouring more in the way of average to maybe above average in the south, average to below average in the north, bringing in the risk of snow over the Christmas period. Now, if we do go to the GEM, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow pushing in at the moment. Northerly winds try and push in there for the Christmas Eve, and they are reasonably successful. But here, the GEM doesn't bring that low pressure to the south at all, and we lose amplification, and we go straight flat westerly. Again, this would bring a scenario of it still being cooler in the north, milder in the south, but would reduce any risk of any cold weather reaching further southwards at all. And cold air in the north really only in the colder sectors. And if we go to the northern hemisphere, you can see the blocking has kind of evaporated on the GEM run here. Go right back to now, huge blocking in the northern hemisphere, that blocking disappearing. Now again, the stratospheric polar vortex right up high in the atmosphere is favouring a pattern like this, we have seen a disconnect recently. We have seen a disconnect pretty much for the whole of December so far, and that's why we've had blocking, even though the polar vortex and the stratosphere suggests we should have westerly winds. Now, could this be a sign that we're seeing a connect? We'll have to see. Again, we need more model runs. The GFS definitely wasn't on board with that. If we see all the models going more on board with that, that's something we could start to have a look at, and that could squash any cold weather over the course of the next couple of weeks. But the potential for cold weather is still there, even though this run here very much favouring something mild, wet, and windy for the end of the month, potentially into the start of December as well. Now, if you move to the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow in that moment. Northerly wind to try and push in for the Christmas period. And for Christmas Day, we actually see quite a cold northerly wind, and a cold air mass spreads in for all of the UK, really, through Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and into the 27th. So, yeah, remarkable there. The ECMWF is really quite cold, and you'll see at the end of the video the ECMWF ensemble members favour this sort of run much more than the GFS ensembles do. Beyond that, though, still some amplification in the jet stream, but much more in the way of a flat westerly. Now, after you run it back, you can see that cold air mass comes through really on Christmas Day and lasts all the way to the sort of the 28th. So 3 or 4 days of cold weather there. Again, generally under higher pressure, so most areas will be dry, cold, and frosty. Temperatures in the mid to low single digits. Very cold overnight, and northern areas will see some snow. Beyond that, though, as I said, it goes more mild, wet, and windy with a westerly flow. And look at the pressure patterns. That blocking over the northern hemisphere does disintegrate rapidly from what it is now in the next 10 days. So ECMWF also potentially suggesting that. But, go back to the GFS, we don't really see that much at all. Yes, it is collecting more, but there's still big incisions of blocking into the northern Canada and the jet stream shoved further south towards the UK. So yes, could be signs here that the stratospheric polar vortex is organising and turning us much more westerly based with less blocking, but we will have to see the next few days. It could just be 2 runs from the GFS, from the GM and the ECMWF today suggesting that at day 10, but the GFS is definitely not on board with that, so we'll have to see. If you finish, but just have a look at the ensembles. If you start on the GFS, you'll be able to see generally around average over the course of the next couple of weeks. Very up and down those. There could be cold weather, there could be mild weather, but there's no real main signal for mild weather or cold weather, just generally average, quite unsettled, so pretty much suggestive of a west to northwesterly wind, colder and milder air masses oscillating, and generally quite a bit of precipitation around as well, so nothing too crazy here. Look at the 2 metres temperatures, generally around that sort of 6 to 8 degree mark, so average. Look at the dew points, generally around sort of 3, 4, 5 degrees for the average, so nothing hugely mild, but nothing particularly cold at all. Arctic air masses will be towards the freezing point and lower, so nothing really suggestive of anything majorly cold there. A few straight after Christmas, but nothing too crazy. So yeah, definitely suggesting some generally average conditions. But if we do go over to Scotland, up to Glasgow, you can see quite a cold period there from around the 24th all the way to around the 30th. So colder weather definitely in the north, generally average conditions in the south. And then if we do compare that to ECMWF for Glasgow as well, generally below average from the 24th to the 30th, maybe slightly more above average, slightly more towards average at times, but still generally quite cold and unsettled. Could be quite a bit of snow around with that. And if you do see for London, generally more around average. A bit more of a dip though there, you can see between the 26th and the 29th. So cold weather there for the majority of the ECMWF runs, but we're not seeing that from the GFS. So a bit of a split there, and this is why I said really there's no real point looking at anything beyond the next 5 days, as the ensemble members really don't have a clue exactly what's going to be happening beyond the 26th. They've got the pressure patterns pretty much done, but the exact air masses, you can see from the operational runs and the ensemble runs, they're still yet to be determined. The general theme, though, from what the majority of runs are showing, is it's most likely going to be cold in the north, most likely just below average, potentially a little bit more below average, maybe a few degrees below average, which is cold enough for snow, especially over high ground, and probably likely to low-lying areas as well, maybe even creeping into northern England and maybe the Midlands at times, and we could see it get into the south and give some frosty weather as well. But generally, the south will be more towards average, more towards that sort of freezing at 850 HPA, which is cold enough for some slight overnight frosts and daytime temperatures in around that sort of 6 to 8 degree mark, and that's what I think is most likely over the Christmas period. We were looking at the potential for colder weather a few days ago, and as I said, that's stayed mainly in the north. We were very much like, where is it going to go? How far southwards is it going to get? It does look likely it's going to stick mainly to the north, across Scotland, northern England, maybe Northern Ireland, with some winteriness around, and the south generally around average. So if you are looking for a white Christmas, south may get a bit of frost, may get the odd wintry shower if we do go with some of these colder runs. But the most likely scenario is it's generally average in the south, slight frost here or there, colder in the north with more widespread frosts and wintry showers, much more likely. So if you are, as I said, looking for a white Christmas, probably best to head to Scotland. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Nothing too crazy for Christmas this year, not majorly mild, not majorly cold for most. There will be some cold weather around, but not for all. And again, we'll have to see what happens post-Christmas and Boxing Day to see whether we do see some cold weather more widely, and how long that does last, or whether it just does go mild and westerly. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.